Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell, here to go through the first large slate of the NHL season. That's right, DJ. We have 9 games here on Thursday. How are you doing? And how was your Tuesday?
Yeah, it was good. I mentioned it to you, and I still was able to kind of get everything done I wanted to. But I got concert tickets. I think it was at the end of May, maybe early June, but obviously before the season ended, before next season. Uh, and the show ended up just lining up with opening night. So we were watching the first game, got through almost the last second of the first game into the second game at a bar, and then went in and saw the band Fiddler. I'm sure there's plenty of Fiddler fans out there that are probably wondering more, but great show. Got home in time to watch after Gunther already had scored the first goal to make me very happy. But yeah, I mean, a great opening night. Bets were close on all fronts, but one of the slips did get through, which was nice to see. A couple $100 back. DFS, again, it's like I had a lot of the right pieces and I put the puzzle all the way together. So it didn't get there, but I didn't lose money. So I'm not mad. How did your Tuesday night opening slate fare?
Yeah, the slate was pretty bad. I went 2 for 2 on like well, I had the boosted bet. I had like Bedard -175 up to -110, so that shots hit, and then Kurashev under somehow by the grace of God hit. I know you were also part of that on your slip there, so that saved some of it, most of it really. But between DFS and betting, I came out down a decent amount despite going 2 for 2 on the betting streets. So we are one bad week away from this being just a betting show. But with
Yeah,
that in mind, we have gotten a lot of like engagement over these first 2 days. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. Hopefully, if you're not an NHL regular, you stick around. I know we're getting to normal slates, but not 50K type prize pools. But hopefully you had a good time, and hopefully you can continue trusting us to steer you in the correct direction. I know we had a single bullet winner on the underdog slate. Shout us out. I don't
yep.
know if you have that tweet up, DJ, but the team was just, it was something that really is a single bullet winner, if I had to say so myself.
I mean, it kind of had the perfect mix of like scroll the F down plus all of the right takes from what we were saying, plus like the added a little element of just hitting the perfect little piece. And again, like I think it goes to show you, if you have the time and you want to play a different way against maybe every single option that exists in DFS when you play on DraftKings is still there on underdog. It's just like 80% of the time, a lot of these players aren't getting picked at all. Like Sam Bennett probably went, I don't even know, like five draft. I mean, it was like 5 or 10% of drafts. So like, I do think you can have more fun, but yeah, that was Bedley, Piker 8 sweeping it. Just, you'll love to see it.
Yeah, Discord regular. So shout out to that. 3K, on $10. Not a bad way to start the season. So thank you for tagging us and allowing us to retweet and whatever. I was extremely surprised by the amount of traction my write up for the Wednesday slate got. So it's at least a little bit encouraging. Obviously the results need to follow DFS wise for me to really be all aboard, because that did take me, 3-ish hours. Now part of that setting up the Excel that I showcased and that I showed on last pod. But it's nice to see actual tangible benefits from putting in the work. So I know DJ and I are both very pleased in that respect these first few days, and yeah. So let's dive right into things here. We have 9 games ahead of us, a slate with 20K up top in both the $15 and the 333 over on DraftKings. So yeah, anything else you want to say before we get into it?
No, just thanks everyone for following along and let's keep it going. We're going to go game by game. I think the best way to do things is just like talk about everything in a game and what we care about. And like, you can take whatever you want from it. I know some people have told me like, oh, I write some stuff down that you mentioned and some bets and whatnot. And we use all this kind of to our advantage when we're talking. But slips will be always kind of posted the next day. And we don't, it's just like, I don't know. Got to be more reactionary to what we're going to find out. And the first game is the perfect example of that because we have LA traveling to Buffalo, take on my Sabres, your Sabres as well, Matt. It's basically a pick on minus 105 on the Buffalo Sabres. So, minus 115 for the Kings. So I guess the Kings are very slight favorites. It's a weird game. Sabres coming off those two tough losses overseas. They feel like a mess, but I don't know if it's as dire as it's like if the goals don't come, they don't come, and the Sabres are going to struggle. I was actually a little bit happy with the fact that the goaltending was fine. LA is a team that has kind of an opposite end of the spectrum where I don't think anyone's worried about them scoring goals. It's keeping the puck out of their own net. Goaltending seems like a question mark with Riddick and Kemper, and their defense without Drew Doughty feels pretty bare. We're getting minimum salary. Brandt Clark, I can, without any shadow of a doubt, know that he's going to be in Matt's lineup tomorrow. Doesn't matter where he's playing. It says D3 if you're watching this on YouTube. But he's going to be top power play, one of the most electric prospects in all of hockey. Like, doesn't get anywhere near the notoriety of Elaine Hudson. I don't think he plays the same way as Elaine Hudson exactly, but almost maybe even better for this type of format because he just shoots a ton. There's a lot of value options on this slate. I don't think he's going to be overlooked entirely, but I don't think he'll get as much steam because there's a lot of value on this slate. So with all of that out of the way, where do you want to start it?
You mentioned it, because you spent, once again, I spent more time building this Excel out and I just imported the pricing. So you spent more time digesting the pricing and looking through some of the oddities. And your clear takeaway was that there are truly some absolutely egregious pricings out there, like on the low end. And yes, there's Austin Matthews, but he's on a back-to-back. There's Kaprizov at 9,400. But like, there's not too many high-price guys to play, so there are going to be a plethora of value options for you.
Yeah, you sure about that goal you got listed there for LA? Because I don't think Stolar's getting traded after this.
Yeah, that is.
It's an interesting game, and like I honestly, from a betting is that right? I honestly don't know, but yeah, from like a betting perspective, and a lot of times when I'm building my lineups, I like to kind of look what the sports books think because they're not bad at this type of stuff, and I do think this game doesn't set up to be maybe the most prolific from a DFS perspective. I definitely think there's angles to attack it. It's not that expensive. I mean, like if I were to tell you who's the most expensive player in this game, let's take Tage Thompson out of the equation. Even I mean, he's only 7,400. It's not like he's completely shattering the bank, but it's Kempe at 67. Like this game has a lot of mid-tier options as well, but I just don't think it's one I'm ultra interested in outside of the fact that you can take you get one off Clark. I don't think that would be crazy.
So
I'll let you go.
We don't have perfect power play information from this team. They went to Quebec to end their preseason, and as a result, we didn't get the actual game reports, what the NHL provides as far as like the roster reports and the event reports and so on and so forth. So we can't actually see what they did unless a beat writer like specifically tweeted it. So stay tuned to Morning Skate. I think, one, I'll be able to look closer later tonight or tomorrow to see like what, because the Kings have good beat writers, but they don't necessarily tweet the things out. They put them on like the Mayor's Manor and LA Kings Insider. I think they're both called.
Great follows. Yeah. Great follows.
Yes, definitely. Like they're the one team where you're probably not finding great Twitter information, but like you're finding free sourced data that's like, on their newsletter or whatever. That's like incredible, quotes and everything else. But anyway, it's very worthwhile to see the status of that power play because last we saw both Brandt Clark and Alex Laferriere were on the power play. And like you said, Kempe, Kopitar, Fiala, they're not expensive either. But those two obviously are really strong values. Laferriere, continues off of last season's performance with earning the top line role for the Kings. That doesn't mean nothing. And once again, he's the only right-handed forward in the mix for them, other than I think Trevor Lewis. So like if he's on that power play, like it's probably for a specific reason, since like no one's going to argue that Quentin Byfield is a worse player than Alex Laferriere or a worse scorer or whatever. But it's just like for systemic reasons. So if that role is there for him, he should be able to capitalize on it. He was perfectly fine last year, and again, isn't an awesome role here with Kempe, and then Brant Clark. We've talked about Brant Clark ad nauseum, but you look at last season, and in a very sheltered role, mind you, he was a top 5 defenseman in DraftKings points per minute played. And Drew Doughty is out; he's going to miss a few months. And as a result, Brant Clark should at least play 17, 18 minutes, which is a huge upgrade for him. And even if he doesn't get to the 20, 22 minutes that Jordan Spence might, for example, Brant Clark is just so much better fantasy wise that I think he's, not a lock, because there's going to be so many values that you can't keep them straight on the slate. But he is, in that upper echelon, just given his prior NHL performance and his prospect pedigree.
Yeah, I think this is a good situation of like, you could one off a Clark in my opinion, but like let's say we get the news tomorrow that like Quentin Byfield is on the top power play, and at 3,600 he becomes a much more
Yep.
interesting option. Like I would say if you're playing Quentin Byfield and Clark, if you're not playing Fiala, I think you've completely kind of missed the thesis of the play. There's interesting look like that, but we just don't know right now. I am interested at him. I did take a look. Byfield's 3-1 to score. Again, I'm just gonna wait till tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna move much. And if I see he's on the top power play, I'll probably bet that. If I don't, I don't. The Sabres are, on the other hand, I think much more interesting from, I guess, the perspective of a lot could change very quickly. We're expecting Peterka and Benson. The thing that's going to keep people away from the Sabres is the fact that DraftKings decided to make JJ Peterka a center. So that means you take up both of your center spots in Peterka and Thompson to play that stack. That'll all, well, it probably won't actually be power play correlated.
Yeah.
So yeah, never mind. Everything's gone.
That's the thing that's going to keep people away from the Sabres is that after the debacle overseas, Lindy hit the blender. So, Owen Power gets to bump to the power play at 4,000 though. It's like, do you really need that? Dylan Cousins might be a bit more in the mix, 3,800. But neither of his 5-on-5 line mates, are on the power play with him, and presumably Zach Benson and Jack Quinn. And that is because Jason Zucker is power play 1. And, that's just not a great fantasy situation. It's worth noting, contextually speaking, that this game is basically a pick'em, and the over-under is a 6.5. Like Boston, Montreal is a 5.5. Utah, the Islanders are a 5.5. Every other San Jose and St. Louis is a 5.5 as well. Every other game is a 6.5. So it's not the only 6.5 on the slate, but like there should be goals in this game. And you just look, and you could easily see in a month almost every single player on this in these two teams being 1,000 more, even 2,000 more in some cases than they are right now, and not be too surprised. So a lot of value here. But anything final you want to say?
Yeah, I think it's, if I end up playing either side of this game, it's honestly could be Dylan Cousins with Darlene. Just I think we know what Darlene can do in breaking the slate wide open, and Cousins has definitely shown up with a propensity to shoot to start the season. At 3,800, I could see it. I kind of think I'm staying away, but that's kind of where my head goes, of like this very cheap, very low owned in a kind of a whole smorgasbord of cheap and low owned. Getting a guy in Darlene that I know a slate breaking upside is a little bit more intriguing, but we can move over to Montreal going on a back-to-back to play the Boston Bruins if you're ready.
Yep. Presuming nothing changes, they are 9 minutes away from shutting out the Leafs 1-0, hilariously.
Yeah.
On a back-to-back in a 5.5, total against probably Jeremy Swayman and the Bruins. I don't think there's anything to like here. Lane Hudson was extremely popular on Wednesday night. I think he came in at 15-20% owned.
Yep.
Just looking through what he's done so far, he has played 15 minutes, blocked a 1 shot, and had 0 shots on goal. I'm firmly out on Lane Hudson. He's just not. His 99th percentile as a prospect is Quinn Hughes. and that's just
Yeah.
not someone I
Yep.
care about for fantasy.
Well,
So
okay. Let me just say one thing. It's like, what was the problem with Quinn Hughes when he first came into the league? It wasn't flashiness. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't puck moving. It was he never shot. So you
it's
were
the
banking
Trevor
on two
Zegras
assists.
problem.
Yeah, and like I think the problem with had that ownership is if anyone played Lane Hudson without another guy at Montreal, again, they missed the whole point of the Lane Hudson experience. And without knowledge of what that was even going to look like from, him with David Savard and the power player and all that stuff, which he's not in the top power play. Yeah, I also just kind of thought that play seemed wrong. So yeah, not to say that Lane Hudson at some point won't be very in play. It's just like right now it is not. At some point, we're going to look at, 3,500 Lane Hudson probably and say, this guy is changing the way he's playing because he does have that ability. But yeah, I just think it's important to note that we love the player. We love the prospect. He's not good in daily fantasy.
Yeah, it's definitely a show me situation. And as far as everyone else, Kirby Doc is 3,000. There's just better center options in this price range, I think, that we'll get to. And then, Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky. It's a similar situation to Wednesday night where Slavkovsky is, sub 4K. That could draw ownership, though. Again, in this context with Boston, big favorites back to back. For Montreal, I just don't think there's really any reason to continue discussing Montreal.
No, no.
Boston, on the other hand, have you seen any changes that could come as a result of Tuesday night's performance? Because yes, they got bailed out at the very end, but they got their teeth kicked in for a period and a half there.
Didn't see anything other than obviously, Swayman. I think that everyone's expecting to be in net. But other than that, it seemed like it would be about the same. But I bet there could be like that Frederick line gave up, I believe, 4 goals against. So like maybe something more minor because like the Pasternak Zaka Lindholm line from again, I kind of just was catching up as much as I could
Yeah,
because like I said, I was at a concert for most of this game. They seem fine. So I don't think it's going to matter for daily fantasy. I just wonder, how much more we're going to start to see if they continue to struggle kind of overall with their depth, how much more we're going to see of Marchand and Pasternak together. So I am a bit weary of what that's going to look like. I feel like it comes at the cost of Zaka, and I'm never going to worry about leaving him off. But more than anything here, I just really am not that interested. Like,
yeah,
I think Pasternak is going to find ownership just because he's on a slate where it makes a lot of sense to play him. And it's again, like the guy shoots the puck. He plays as much time as he can possibly handle. 20 minutes last game. It might not sound like a lot, but they were in the penalty box a ton, and he does not kill penalties. So like he's still cut there. I think people are going to go back to him. And again, like, it's not the wrong play. I just like other plays more. And I like some of the cheap options. But I just, spoil the surprise, I guess. I like Kaprizov more, and that's just the way that's going to go. So
yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. It's really hard to find I guess it's not hard to find the money, but it's hard to find the incentive to spend 9,100 for Pasta when his direct correlations in McAvoy, Lindholm, and Zaka all just feel, 1,000 too expensive on this slate. Like if Pavel Zaka were the same price as some of the 3K guys we'll get to, I'm not sure we'd click him over, those guys. So Lindholm is obviously too expensive for what he is. But again, it's paying up to be contrarian. They obviously have upside, just not like key players here. And also the depth guys just don't stand out to me. You mentioned there was a lot of PK time in there. Mason Lohrei only played
yeah,
16 minutes in this game.
16.
Maybe in a more normal environment, he's up at the 19 range that you're hoping for. But at 3,300, I don't think that's necessary with guys like Brant Clark hanging out on this slate. So nothing else for me here.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, Florida
Speaking
and
of,
Ottawa.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
speaking of the drubbing, these Florida guys might be good, huh?
Shocking. I know. Yeah, I feel like I was, I think the thing about Florida, what I was most curious about was, would they give up more defensively with some of their departures? And I feel like you're like, I don't think so. Well, I I don't know if I want to go back on that completely, but I kind of want to be earlier to the punch in case it does happen. So I am interested in Ottawa here. I'm not disinterested in Florida because I think we know Ottawa's bad defensively, and I don't think they fixed it. even though they got a better goalie. Like that goalie can bail them out a little bit, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think I just like this game in general a lot more than the previous two we discussed, and more than some we're going to get to down the line. So I could be talked into a lot here. We're starting with the Florida side. Like I have no problem going right back to the whole Verhage Verhage, Barkov, Reinhardt. I should probably say all the names. We're not looking at everything I'm looking at if you're listening in your car. And I know that like Verhage burned some people in that stack. He didn't have a point, and they scored like 8 goals or 6 goals. I mean,
Yeah.
like impressive stuff, really. But I have no problem going back to it. Ekblad will take over the top power play if Boqvist can't go. It was a puck to the face for Adam Boqvist, and they did not confirm it. They said that they would see if he will be able to travel, which makes me believe it's not as likely as you may think. So yeah, like there's other ways to kind of play this game, but I mean, Ekblad's in play, not Ekman Larson. He's on Toronto now. Ekblad could be in play as well to kind of lower the cost. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this Panthers team?
Yeah, I'm relatively uninterested, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just trying to set myself up for the inevitable Ottawa slam that we're going to get to next time. But just the pricing with the first line being over 22,000. Kachuk doesn't offer any value. Ekblad is 4K. It's not like he's 3,200 or something. Um, I guess if Boqvist is officially ruled out, then I might consider something like Barkov, Reinhardt, Ekblad, and just say like power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5. No matter what happens, these guys like should be the dudes. But I don't think I can go all the way into like a full first line stack. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not chasing Sam Bennett either. 5,500 is a lot for a guy who's not power play one here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, that's not going to, but like the Verhage problem was that the power play stunk. They immediately lose their power play one defenseman, and it never got there. It's just hilarious in a 6-goal output. But that entire line was out there for all that power play run, plus Reinhardt and Barkov kill penalties, which they did take some penalties. It's like, and Verhage just kind of got a little bit lost in the sauce with all that, and like still had minutes. Just like if they didn't score on the power play, it wasn't getting there, which is why I get what you're saying. But Ottawa is bad and takes penalties. On the Ottawa side, I mean, I feel like I'll just tee it up again. We've teed it up like 7 times already, but their top power play, Matt, would you happen to know those players?
Oh, yes. Let me just fix Tim Stutzle's price here so that I can actually share it
I
correctly.
could just say
Um,
it if you want, but
but yes, Josh
fine.
Norris is on the top power play alongside Tim Stutzle, which is an interesting wrinkle. But with them is Kachuk, Batherson, and Sanderson. So this brings us to the you can spend 15.7 for Brady and Stutzla, or you can spend 8.4 for Norris and Batherson. I don't know, DJ. Which one are you picking here?
You know what I'm picking, and it's like one of those situations where I almost feel like DraftKings gave us a test, and the test is obviously you're playing Batherson Norris and maybe Sanderson as well. And I just can't wait for Brady to score a hat trick. Like it's just going to be the most amazingly tilting situation in the world. Um, yeah, just I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane Pinto 6,100 makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Let's just pick numbers out of a hat to price players. Chabot 52. Okay. Yep. We're
Yep.
just we're just out here really vibing over at DraftKings. So
Yeah. It sets up so nicely to just Giga Smash and just feel so dejected when it doesn't work. And like the thing is, and I know you're saying it like it's going to get ownership. I truly don't think like the Slabbies are still going to be out in droves for these Florida Panthers, and they're not going to be jamming. There's other cheap options that we haven't even gotten to yet. There's other ways of playing this slate that you can avoid punting. And this is again, it's not punting. It's such
yeah,
an
it's
unbelievably great value play. Will
yep.
optimizers even get there? Like I think that's the issue we're gonna probably deal with more as the opto pros than anything else. So like I do think in the cheaper lower end contest it might not be quite as big of an issue, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting slate. I'm excited to see this ownership.
And it is impossible to know because Norris has been so injured that, like, how much data are optimizers pulling in? Like, what projection, what are projection systems actually looking at as far as his recent data? Is it going back to his pre-injury, just like giga smash
Yep.
output, or is it looking at, the hampered Josh Norris? Which, by the way, we don't really know he's fully healthy. It's not like he went crazy in the preseason or anything to really like put a stamp on things. But by all indications, he's healthy. Obviously, they have Shane Pinto as a viable NHL center, and he is on the third line. So like, it really does seem like they are prioritizing Norris. He has the big contract, so like that could be part of it. But I genuinely believe that he's like uber talented. So 3,500 is just pretty disrespectful
Yep.
because I would honestly pay the same price for him as I would for Tim Stützle. Maybe that's a hot take, but like Tim Stützle isn't really a shoot first guy, and Josh Norris is I guess he's the finisher on their power play. Like it's not Brady Kachuk, obviously, because that dude couldn't finish on an empty net half the time unless there was a goalie that jammed, through the pads. Um, so Josh Norris is really set up, I think, for success early in this season if he's healthy. So I'll take some chances and let the eye test do the rest.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm in on it. I do think that like it's kind of the perfect situation too of like who do they want shooting the puck on that power play?
Yeah,
And it just has to be Batherson and Norris. Like it's like it's not even a doubt. So I agree so hard, and I'm going to. I would say one of us is going to say that's one of our favorite stacks of the night, and then when it fails, it's not our fault. We can move over though if you're ready to Toronto and the New Jersey Devils. Toronto minutes away from getting shut out in the opener.
yeah.
2 minutes
Just
30 seconds left as of recording. So if they came back and won, I apologize. Didn't know. Toronto is still incredibly expensive. It's not surprising. They have
yep.
some of the best players in the world in the fantasy perspective. It's not as expensive as it has been in the past. Austin Matthews at 9,800 is right up there with his highest prices. It's Tavares, Nylander, Marner, Morgan Riley had a lot of shots, a ton of offense. I was watching that game before we started recording. I think the situation on Toronto, and you kind of, and they only give up one goal, so it's not like it's that crazy to even say that this was kind of proven right. But a lot of people either ran up a full game stack. Montreal was popular enough to where you could say like, oh, like people were thinking Toronto was bad defensively, and I actually do respect them quite a bit defensively going into this season. I think it's a good team. But are you? I guess we'll start with the interested in Toronto at these prices on a back-to-back going to New Jersey, a team that I also respect defensively. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah. I hope that they keep the same lines because, they have 44 shots at the moment. Like it's not like they're not
Yep.
creating. Montebeau's just on a different planet. Um, But other than Matthews, yeah, their prices all look pretty fair. And New Jersey, is the early season anointed as the next big thing. Uh, like, yes, they beat up on Buffalo, but if that means something to you, like, I suggest you get your head checked. Now, of course, Jake Markstrom is a good goalie, so like that was their big issue from last season. But it's not like this team is perfect defensively. And especially without Brett Pesci, I believe, still.
Yep.
So between Nyes, Matthews, Marner, and then Domi, Tavares, Nylander, I think there's a stack in there that should be paying attention to. I personally will just go right back to the stupid Matthews Marner. Well, I had a decent amount of Matthew Nyes as well. It looks like he's gonna finish in the 17, 18-minute range, which is really not what I was anticipating from him. So maybe that's a good step forward. Yeah, he's already at 1851. I'm not sure if he's out there with the empty net or whatever. But like 19 minutes for 3,200 alongside these two guys is great. As I noted in my write up on Wednesday, Matthew Nyes is considered, at least by Corey Pronman. There are several prospect gurus out there, not just one. I chose Pronman because that's the one I read the most. But like he is right up there with like the Jack Quinns, Lucas Raymond, as far as like, future driven upside. So not right now, of course, but like Matthew Nyes does profile as a very, very strong player, for fantasy as well. So I think betting on him to sort of break out, especially if he's getting 19 minutes a night, makes a ton of sense. But you're just gonna have to check pregame skate to make sure that these lines don't hit the blender because yeah, who knows what Berube's going to do after his debut results in a 1-0 loss. So anyone else you want to focus on before New Jersey?
Nah, not really. I mean, I don't
All right.
think you're unnecessary on this big of a slate. Unnecessary. Going over to the Devils, like I do think that everything becomes affordable around Jack Hughes if you're interested. When I first pulled up the slate and I saw, 6,400 Brat, 5,900 Timo Meyer, 6,100 Dougie Hamilton. Like it feels like it's somewhat doable, even though Jack Hughes is 9,200. I just think that like I respect not only do I respect this Toronto team enough defensively, but on a back to back, it doesn't make me feel better about the Devils. It's just doesn't really change much. It's the second game of the season, and I wonder if people could read into that more than they should. So I kind of think I'm just going to stay away from this game. Again, I'm planning on playing more expensive players down the line. So I don't know how I'm making it work without one of those core pieces. And those are, like if you're playing either of these two teams and you're not playing Matthews and you're not playing Jack Hughes, again, like I don't know how many slates you're winning. Like those are the guys that score 35 and carry along the rest. So I think for that reason, I'm just going to not play this game. But I do like the pricing, and I am kind of noting to myself, like, keep that in mind because you mentioned Matthew Nice things that could help afford that Toronto stack. I kind of like the pricing right now in New Jersey. I could help you
Yeah.
afford a power play top line. So maybe not tonight though.
I think a mini stack of Timo Meyer and Dougie Hamilton could be really interesting because, obviously if you're stacking New Jersey fully, you're hoping for, 5 goals or, something crazy. But if you get like 1 goal from Timo plus Dougie, it's very possible that, say, Timo scores, has 5 shots in a block, that's 20. And Dougie gets, 5 shots, 3 blocks, and assists on the Timo goal. Like, obviously, Jack Hughes is probably not getting there at that instance at 9,200, and you're still pretty much on pace for a strong finish. Now, obviously, you're hoping for more goals than just one, but like Hamilton and Meyer specifically for a combined 12K just don't feel like they're risky, and so like there's a high floor, high ceiling with them that I don't think exists if you stack it with Jack Hughes, for example, and that's just a price driven thing because I think the environment's going to be very up tempo. I love Dougie relative to other D-men at his price on this slate. So that's my main consideration. I'm not interested in any values here. Seamus Casey was fun, but like, again, Brant Clark is sort of the mantle I'm holding all defensemen up to, and Brant Clark just has Casey beat for sure.
Yeah, we can move over to everyone's
All
new
right.
favorite team, the Utahs. Yeah, I mean, it was they. I think the thing is, they played one of the worst teams in the NHL. Like when Connor Bedard is not on the ice, that is, I think pound for pound, the
When
worst, if
Connor
not the
Bedard
second
was
worst
on
team.
the ice, they were not good either for large stretches of that game.
I mean, if you're a coach and you coach any team and you need to show what a bad power play looks like for some reason, please go and get the footage of Chicago's power play. Just show what you should not do because it really was like as soon as Utah took away Bedard, it was like a bunch of it just looked like beer league hockey. I made the tweet. It was like they couldn't game the zone, they couldn't hold the puck in the zone. Pucks are bouncing off sticks. I don't know. Not good. Utah's playing a real team, a team that I really respect and like in the Islanders. I don't think any of these guys are, the price jump on everyone is warranted because Barrett Hayton was mispriced. Sergachev was mispriced. I mean, Gunther at 6K honestly could have been considered mispriced and got there. So 6,200 shouldn't be anything to go crazy about. But all of this together, I don't know if this is where I'm going to go. It's not like I'm out on it, but I don't know how I want to play it.
So, I gotta say, this is a 5.5 total. Just given your priors about the uh, New York Islanders, do you think that total is just misunderstanding what that hockey team is? Because I don't think the 5.5 is because of Utah. So like, is there a possible like projection edge if, say, if you were magically able to control a projection set and say this game's a 6.5, not a 5.5, that would obviously inflate things. Is there anything that you think could be driving things here? Because I understand your argument about the pricing and like not really being that interested in it, but just from a like procedural standpoint, is that something you're interested in? Maybe like just betting the over on the game or something.
Um, I mean, not at this point. I
Okay.
see what you're saying. I guess I
Um,
just I guess your point being, and I think that this is like I do think the Islanders and the over are going to be pretty good. But again, like if you like the over 6 here and you like the Islanders, there's such a better way of playing this game, and it's playing the Islanders in daily fantasy where they're not that
okay.
expensive and the offense is pretty freaking concentrated. And like that's part of the reason why so far I haven't found anything I'm too in love with, because I am considering that pretty heavily. I don't think I need to bring it back. I think you can. Again, there's pieces here you can bring it back with if you want to. It's a 9-game slate. You don't have to do that. So more interested on the next side when we get to it. And I think that's the way
Okay.
I'd bet it. Like I could put $50 down on an over 6, or I could bet on Barzal, who is probably
Yeah.
getting that to happen.
Yeah. Dylan Gunther's in play on any slate here going forward. I don't think he'll be very popular here. So like, no problem playing him. Sergachev at 4,900 versus the price, 4,300 last slate. Doesn't stand out quite as much. But those are really the only two names I care about. Barrett Hayton at 41 feels about right. He might max out as a 5K ish player, but the goal he scored last game was just, I mean, the 50% chalk of the night scores that goal every time, but not when he's 3%. He was just standing there, and the puck hits a defenseman, hits his stick that's just literally in midair. He doesn't move his stick, and it goes perfectly top corner off of his stick deflection. It looks nice on the score sheet, but I don't think it's representative of his actual role on the team. So I'm not really chasing that aspect, but Dylan Gunther's gonna be an 8K player, next year probably at this rate. So like 6,200, whatever, it's fine. For the Islanders, as you pointed out, uh, I guess earlier in the offseason, Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal are two players you're planting your flag on. They add in a line mate in Anthony Duclair, who is a solid, speedy NHL forward. He is on the power play one with them. So I'll let you take it away. What do you have here while I fix my power play that for some
Yeah, I
reason
was
has
gonna
Ryan
say.
Pulock as the power play one?
I, I mean,
Sorry.
it's one of those situations where you're getting this ultra correlated, Duclair, Horvat, Barzal, Dobson situation and like I think more so than just how much I love that correlation is how much I think we're gonna start to see the Brock Nelson age curve catch up to him. And the Palmieri age curve catch up to them. And they're going to rely on this Horvat line so much more offensively. They're going to have to carry the entire workload. It's just like it's going to happen. And like this slate, the Islanders, if they were playing the Arizona Coyotes and it wasn't all this excitement and it wasn't all this, like they would be jammed. But now they're playing Utah. And I get it. Like Utah is better because they have young, fun talent to go along with it. That was there in Arizona last year. Like most of it was there by the end of the year. A lot of that young, fun talent is bad defensively. A lot of that young, fun talent is not going to be completely fixed by Sergachev, who in reality gave up the first goal against. I mean, like Bedard blew past him like he wasn't there and set up Teravainen for a goal. Like I think he's a good player, but like he can make mistakes. And I think that's going to lead to ownership not getting there from, and I don't think the optimizers are going to get there either. It's going to be a low total. Like nothing is going to lead people to the Islanders except the fact that I think logically it makes a ton of sense. And I believe in Matt Barzal being truly one of the best players in the league. Like I think he is up there with some of the best, and he's not priced that way or considered in that light until
Yeah.
he is. And I want to be right.
This is, I think, a very good candidate for a 5-man power play stack. Just play the entire power play one because Noah Dobson, 6K, great defenseman. The first line, you made the case for them. They're going to be very low owned. Add in the Siplikov. I think that's how we're saying it now. This Russian prospect came over. He's 2,600. But in the KHL, he was a very quality player. He shot a decent amount too. So there's really no reason at 2,600 playing on the second line with Nelson and Palmieri that you just don't take advantage of it. You mentioned Nelson and Palmieri in the age curve. That sure seems to be what's playing into Patrick Waugh, using them as the second power play unit. And that just means that Siplikov literally takes that 5-on-5 and he gets the power play one job. Like, it makes way too much sense, I think. So yes, it's probably, large field GPPs only, but if you're really high on the Islanders or even high on Utah as like a high up tempo type team, then yeah, that 5-man makes a lot of sense. But not not much interest in like a one-off or anything from this game. Next game, Pittsburgh at Detroit. What do you have for me here? Does Pittsburgh play?
Yeah.
Did I? Yeah, Pittsburgh's playing right now.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a second, I just did this.
Yeah, so once again, we had this really messy, unfun correlation mess on both sides. And Tristan Jarry was not good. Pittsburgh was not good defensively against the Rangers. The Rangers got up. They held on. I mean, it's 4-0 with 10 minutes left in the game as of recording. So we'll see what that gets to. But the Rangers have 38 shots in a game. They've been leading the entire time. So back-to-back, Penguins team might be bad. I think people are going to go to the Red Wings. We're going to get to them in a second. There's not a lot to like on the Penguins. The pricing is the only way you can find a way to get there. I don't think anyone would argue that Detroit's a better team than the Rangers. They're definitely not. The Rangers can certainly, kind of roll three lines pretty well, and maybe that's gonna, we might over analyze the last game going into this one and think the Penguins are a bit worse than they are. I just see nothing on this Penguins team that makes me think that's a good play. Like, even if you think, okay, I'm going to play Malkin, I'm going to play Carlson, and I'm going to play, I guess, Raquel. Like, I think you're just like, find the money for the Islanders. It's not that much more expensive, and it's such a better play. So, yeah,
Right.
I'm pretty much full out on this one.
Can you name the Penguins' backup goaltender with Nedeljkovic on the shelf?
Joel Bloomquist.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could spell it. Oh, Bloom.
I
Yeah,
just
Kvist.
I just had to look it up. It does turn out DraftKings has him, and he's not a 6,500 goalie, so there goes that idea. But yeah, I can't imagine finding my way to any Pittsburgh guys after the debacle that is this Rangers game. The one player that maybe is Rickard Raquel, 3,600 top power play. He's the only guy, funny enough, who's not a minus on the night. Every other player is at least -1, or there's 3 guys who are -2. So, hey, maybe there's some good karma coming his way for being a good boy defensively. But yeah, not interested in any of these other prices.
No.
So yeah, let's get over to Detroit, where we have.
Before you say
please.
it, I was getting stuff together and I just audibly said, I fucking hate Detroit. And my fiance's like, what? It's like, don't want to explain it. Like, this power play situation, I just don't get it. I just don't get the whole thing. I don't understand. Like,
remember when we spent all off season going, we can't take Alex DeBrincat because like they're just gonna put him on power play 2 and just like they're real shitty like that, and he might not even play with Flair. And then they spent all off season or all training camp going like, yeah, here's our power play. It's really good. It's the 4 guys you'd expect plus the defenseman we signed to be our power play 1 quarterback. And then I guess opening night hits and they're like, we are not doing that. I don't know where you got that idea because Alex DeBrincat is not on the top power play.
I had 0% DeBrincat to like my final like 25 drafts, and I ended up getting $100 in on him, 105, whatever it ended up working out to be, just to have some, because I'm like, I could be wrong. I could definitely, and then they immediately are like, no, you weren't wrong. We just wanted to, we hate this team. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, if he's not power play 1, I really won't even argue that much. I just don't understand why it's Larkin, Raymond, Comfort, Kane, and Eric Gustafsson. And then DeBrincat, Tarasenko, Seider, Rasmussen, Berggren. Like,
so
that is where I just kind of completely lose the thread.
So the only thing that I actually thought looking at this was, wow, wait, Berggren, or I think it's actually Berggren or something.
Yeah, it's not
some
pronounced
crazy.
like
whatever. Don't mean to be disrespectful of that culture. But I don't. It's not Bergeron. Is basically what I'm getting at.
He's Swedish. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is like a. I guess watching him, it's like the closest comp is like Kent Johnson, where it's like you just watch him and he's absolutely oozing talent left and right, and sick hands and just can't get a solid role. So if he's actually manning the power play and running it, because Tarasenko, Rasmussen, I don't think those guys are running a power play at this point. The Brinket could get like a decent power play 2 share. I'll that's definitely a very, very low exposure type play, but like there is a chance that a Brinket one-off could actually be useful. Just if the power play 1 fails, DeBrincat still gets that juicy role with Larkin and Raymond. Like those 2 guys were really good together to close the season. It's not like that goes away. So maybe that saves you from like having the full stack Detroit if you really want exposure against this Pittsburgh team. And maybe you can just say like, well, DeBrincat's a good way to just get one player who could actually centralize all the fantasy points on his stick. He's their best rate shooter. There's not really anyone else on his power play that would theoretically get there if he smashes. And obviously Larkin and Raymond, if Larkin's expensive and Raymond is just kind of a guy with, if he's not the one scoring goals, to the point where I think the Brinket as a one-off is actually okay and made better by that news. But his overall projection is certainly not. All right. Oh, and Ville Husso 7,700 is the confirmed starter. I think that's a surprise. A lot of people had Cam Talbot as their number 1. We obviously correctly said, why would you think that? Because they have 3 goalies and they have always acted like they have 3 goalies. So just be mindful of that we did get that confirmed. And he's 7,700, probably a decent value against a back-to-back Pittsburgh team. That definitely sucks.
A lot of people will look at the Larkin Raymond and convince themselves that Eric Gustafsson's a good play. And I'm not doing it. I'd rather play other cheap plays, and I'd rather play other, I'd rather go high, low, and if I'm going in the middle, it's the Islanders, but we can just keep moving.
Right. Dallas and Nashville is the only thing, I guess, very interesting to me about this spot is both Maverick Bourque and UC Saros appear to be hurt for their respective teams. No idea if either one will play. And it actually, I think, is meaningful because we saw all camp long that Wyatt Johnston was on the top line with Hintz and Robertson. Not all camp, but for the most part, every time we saw lines, it was those guys. Now, of course, Robertson was out, so like Cole Lind was the replacement, I think, most of the time. But like it was very clear that they wanted Johnston to sort of upgrade to top line, and then for Maverick Bourque to be the new Wyatt Johnston. Of course, if Bourque's out, they don't have that third center because Stankoven's not a center. So that switches things. So just keep an eye on that. If Bourque is actually okay to play, I don't know what his injury is, but there's AHL articles like written about how he's going to start the year as an NHL player. So like he's clearly not like in jeopardy of going to the AHL or anything. If Bourque is healthy, you could see Johnston slide up to the top line, which of course would be very interesting because that would be a fully correlated power play 1 with basically Wyatt Johnston replacing Joe Pavelski, which if you watch last year's playoffs is a smash and a half. The only other thing I'll say is that I'm not a big fan of what Nashville did in the offseason. I think that Stamkos line will be a train wreck defensively. So Dallas at least is pretty interesting, especially if UC Saros can't go. So I'll toss it to you for any other Dallas thoughts.
No, it's disheartening to see, but what are you going to do? I'm going to have to see what they're at full health. Hopefully Maverick Bourque is back quickly. He's a really interesting prospect and I like him a lot, but this game is, again, feels like there's so much firepower and it feels like Dallas is just too cheap. I guess I'm intrigued. We also have the Saros potentially day to day and not going to play. So I do wonder if people come in on Dallas a bit more than we thought. Just again, Wedgwood revenge game, by the way, let's get carried away here. It's not Wedgwood revenge game, but the problem I think is that Nashville is almost prohibitively priced. Whereas Dallas is not. And I think it's the sports book has it as I almost think it's not like a dead pick on. Let me go to that game quick. I never even pulled it up. I think I could see where it's only a 6. Yeah, it's a minus 102, minus 118 on Dallas. I don't
DJ,
think
I'm
this
not
is going to be the most
sure
popular game.
because we're recording this at 9:57. Barbashev is top line with Eichel and Stone. I don't know
Oh
if you
no,
had
I saw. I retweeted them all while you were talking,
okay,
and just
cool,
whatever. I've been playing them in
cool.
DFS, so I just lose my bet
All
probably.
right,
But no, let's go on the power play. Yeah.
all right.
So don't get me started on that one. I almost convinced myself it wasn't worth doing, and then the reporter's like, "No, no, no, Barbashev is not," because the player said that they were playing with him.
Yeah,
Never listened
yeah,
to hockey
no,
players. I learned. But
they
let's get
are
back to this game.
quite stupid, actually.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make here in general is that with the 6 total, with the ambiguity in net for Nashville, I think more people will either not play this game or play Dallas. I think the price is right, but I don't think I'm gonna get to it. Is probably the way I'm gonna put it. Like what is the stack? What is the stack that you play here? You know, what is it? Are you changing your lineup right now? Do I need to keep talking?
No, I mean, I was doing the Price is Right music because
Yeah.
yeah, that just struck me as a good idea. I'm really only interested, I think, if the Bork thing is a nothing burger and UC Saros is out, and then I can just jam in Johnston, Robertson, Hintz. I don't really have much interest until Harley gets paired back with Heiskanen. Um, I'm pretty worried about what that does to both players defensively and at forward. I just, yeah, I'm not too thrilled about the prospects of jumping in, game one on the road for Dallas here. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't like this game either. That's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, but get to Nashville. I mean, it's how do you do it? Like, again, it's like I'm not playing Ryan O'Reilly at 5,400. There's so many better center plays, and he's overpriced. He doesn't shoot. Forsberg's 8,500. Roman Yossi's I think the key here. Like, if you're playing Nashville and you don't click Roman Yossi at 7,900, I think you've made a royal mistake. I don't think I'm doing it. Like, I'm just not playing. I just don't think I'm going to play it. But yeah, is Yossi going to be popular?
is Yossi going to be? Gosh, at 7,900, I can't imagine so, right? Like, I mean, look at all the
It's
6K defensemen we talked about.
yeah, it kind of feels like every defenseman's a little cheaper than I'm used to. So maybe you're right. It just doesn't
Yeah.
matter that much. But I just kind of keep looking at it and thinking the
Yeah,
optimizers
I
are
mean,
just gonna love this. They're gonna just be swooning for Roman Yossi.
I just don't I just don't see how I just don't see how an optimizer gets to anything Nashville related. Like, how many goals do you have to
By
project
believing
Nashville
in
to score?
itself.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
I said by believing in itself.
Yeah, that is true. By the way, Anthony Stolarz is also not the goalie here. You can see which team I just duplicated several times in order to
Sorry,
make
I'm just
these sheets.
putting $20 on Barbashev to score now because I hate money.
Oh my God, sir, stop! Don't do that. Just bet Alex Holtz. Come on, he's going to be power play 1 when Olafson loses his job.
Okay, yeah, you're right, and I'm wrong. Okay, let's just keep it going here. I'm gonna get
Um,
sidetracked by a stupid bet, but I'm just tilting, so
but
I'm
yeah,
gonna tilt that. That always works.
this pricing is just absurd. Dallas is one
Yeah,
of the best defensive teams in the league, despite their nonsense that I talked about, just splitting
yeah.
Harley and Heiskanen. Like, their defensive forwards are also incredible.
Yeah, like name
Just
one bad forward on Dallas that isn't gonna play 8 minutes, and it's like you just
yeah,
can't.
like
Like
yeah,
I
like,
agree.
say what you will about Jamie Benn and Tyler Sagan, but like, they were playing solid roles last year, and Joe Pavelski was a corpse and still had incredible defensive numbers. Like, this team is just, structure wise really good. Their defensemen are really
I
good.
picked it.
Like,
I
just
picked to win
everyone's
the
good.
cup.
Yeah,
Okay,
rightly so. So yeah, not
last.
interested. And by the way, we don't have a confirmed power play 2 for them, but you can guess who would be on it, and you're probably right. Good job, you did it.
I was.
Moving on.
Let me make my joke now. The last game of the slate until 2.5 hours after when
Yeah,
we hit the Sharks game because it's such a dumb like the slate's going to end at 1 a.m. and it's only going to be St. Louis and the Sharks and like the 4% of people that have anything in that. Actually, it'll be higher than that. We'll get to why. But this is going to be the game where I am going to end up, probably playing quite a bit of the Wild. We'll start with Columbus. We have more news and information at least, but not really sure on the power play at all. They did claim Kevin LeBanc, who maybe would be considered the MVP of the preseason. Guy was as good as we remember him being, just never really getting the role. He's on a line with Fantilli and JVR, Chinikov, Monahan, and Marchenko. Matt's highlighting right now what we're expecting the power play to be, but I truly think it could change on an absolute any
This is
second. But
from 2 days. This is from Monday. So I think
Monday,
this is right.
yeah, no, I what you're doing looks right from what I've last seen. So that would be Chinikov, Monahan, Berensky, Sillinger, and Kent Johnson. I guess we should point out for anyone that's wondering, it's Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner is very hurt. He is on the IR, and he's going to miss a good bit of time, if not most of the season. I believe is the case.
Yep.
Just another terrible thing to just one of the you just can't say enough how bad everything has been. So tough to find a play here that I love. There are at least options that exist, but I really don't know what you're clicking on and feeling any sort of
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, Columbus, I hope this is the last time I have to say this because it's, like it just feels dirty to even think about. But the loss of Johnny Gaudreau, off the ice, horrific. On the ice, it's just terrible for the offensive output of almost every player on this team. Um, but the only possibility of recouping some of that immense talent that Johnny Gaudreau had, I think, is through Kent Johnson. They're not even using Adam Fantilli in a top power play job, so I just don't think it's coming through him as far as the up and comer for this season. But Ken Johnson is being used on the top power play. He is like one of the most dynamic players not in the NHL, like at least on a regular basis coming into the season. And so they're basically installing him in that left flank or on that right flank. You control the power play, like a la Nikita Kucherov, what Johnny Gaudreau used to do. So I don't hate the idea of trying to bet on him early. He's 2,500, of course. The matchup with Minnesota isn't great, but when you look beyond the top six in Minnesota, it's pretty gross. Yakov Trenin, Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno projects to be their 5-on-5 matchup. That seems pretty solid. And you get Cole Sillinger, his center, at 3,300 as the net front Boone Jenner replacement. So it's a super punty punt stack. You don't need a whole lot to come out of it. But I at least think there's some resemblance of this stack could easily be 9K in a month if things go right for them. So that's the one spot I'm looking to on this team.
I think the perfect way to surmise that is at one point they're probably going to win a slate. Is it going to be this slate? Is it? I definitely see what you're saying. And if you want to try to afford two of these complete monster top echelon pieces, and Jack Hughes, Matthews, Pasternak, and then the guy on the other side, and Kro Kaprizov, you're gonna need to find correlated punts. Ottawa might not even be cheap enough to make it work the way you'd want, so that could be an option. But that's about it here. We can move over to Minnesota. The issue is, I guess correlation feels a bit clunky. I do think there will be people that play a full 5-man, a full 4-man. I see nothing wrong with it, but that would be Kaprizov with centered by Rossi and Matt Zuccarello on his wing. Kaprizov and Zuccarello power play 1 correlated. Line 2, Marcus Johansson with Eriksson Ek and Boldly. Obviously Eriksson Ek is the center there. Boldly, Eriksson Ek, presumably, as long as Boldly is 100% good to go, are going to be on that top power play, and then Brock Faber overpriced at 5K on defense. So, yeah, what are you doing here?
Kaprizov, Zuccarello, maybe Rossi. Though, again, that gets to the conversation of is Josh Norris or a Celebrini a better option for that same price tag? Possibly.
Dylan Cousins.
Or Dylan Cousins. Yes, the Dylan Cousins slappy has arrived.
But yeah, Kaprizov, I have it.
Kaprizov and Zuccarello to me are the standout options. Erickson and Boldy are fine, but 14.5K just not really doing it for me. And I don't think you can tack on Kaprizov to that and feel all that good about your power play, stacks or whatever. So I prefer the 5-on-5 correlation of Kaprizov Zuccarello. I've always been a bit of a Zuccarello slappy though, so he could just be old and washed. I'm just betting on him holding on for one more season with that insane chemistry that he has with Kaprizov. Anyone else in this game you're interested in?
No,
All right.
Let's just get to the final game and get out of here. I think we're doing okay on time. We're a little longer than I'd like, but actually not too bad. And it's mainly my fault. So final game of the night, St. Louis, we've already seen. Jordan Kyrou show. They're playing what was projected to be by the sportsbooks the worst team in the NHL. And I think it was right before we started. I was like, man, this San Jose team actually feels not that bad, but they truly don't have a single talent that's worth your nothing even close to the level of a Bedard. I think they're a deeper team overall, but they're still bad. And a lot of their top young talent is just going to not be good defensively because it's incredibly, incredibly rare. And just think it logically, right? Like these players like Will Smith and Macklin Zelebrini come into a league and are immediately asked to do something they've never been asked to do before. And that is play stout defensively. And at the very least, they played in college, which I do think gives a little leg up on getting to that level quicker. But man, it is a tough, tall task. And to go against a team in St. Louis that is, again, most people are very low on. I think that they're not great, but man, they have talent. Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich, and Jake Neighbors are good hockey players. So I wonder what the ownership comes in on. It feels like a good price. And, to me, this slate looks like Minnesota, St. Louis, Ottawa, the Islanders are kind of the congregation of where my lineups are going to build around. And I'm pretty interested, on this St. Louis side of the house. I just don't know how I want to do it, but it's probably through Kyrou.
Yeah, Kyrou scored 2 goals in the opener. Was leading the team in expected goals individually. So can't say that 6,900 for him is my favorite price tag, but given the matchup and given we already saw proof of concept with him, Buchnevich, Texier, where it led to Kyrou scoring twice. Although Texier did a lot and Buchnevich did nothing. Texier had a blocks bonus and an assist, and Buchnevich just had 3 shots. So kudos to Texier. But yeah, I don't hate that idea. Justin Falk remains oddly cheap. Not sure why he's still below 5K. I don't think he did much on Tuesday, but that price still stands out to me. It's not a huge jump to get to the 6K guys that we really like, and Dougie and Dobson and Darlene, but 1,500 nonetheless is not easy to find. So I like that price. But yeah, to me, it's just build around these 2 power play groupings. You have obvious third wheels and Holloway and Texier, who could get there with whichever power play guys you pick, and just move forward. Not chasing Broberg or and anything else that happened on Tuesday's slate.
Yep, I think that's all good. And then on the other side of the house,
one more note: Kapanen is Min-Sal and played 17 minutes. He and Braden Shen, if they're winning, which against the Sharks they should be, they will play a lot. If you need a 2,500 wing, I don't think we've covered too many 2,500 wings that are truly good plays. So Kapanen's okay.
Yeah. Again, I already asked Matt this before the show, but if you're listening in the car, I want you to guess, if you have not looked at the slate, what Macklin Celebrini's price is. 3, 2, 1. Wrong. It's 3K. I was shocked, not because I don't think this is the craziest mispricing in the world, but it just feels like DraftKings is always pricing these guys up. Top line, top power play, all the skill in the world, first NHL game at home. Everything you'd want in a prospect. The pedigree is incredible. I do think that we almost diminish how good he is as a prospect just because he is not Connor Bedard, but he could be Jack Eichel. You know what I mean? It really feels like that's a better comparable. At 3K, it's a great price, and playing against a team, like I said, people are not high on, and I don't think they're wrong for that because I don't think St. Louis is very good defensively. So It's interesting. It's very interesting. What are your thoughts on Mr. Celebrini?
Yeah. At this price, Celebrini is clearly. I'm not even going to bother trying to pull it up. I'll do a deep dive in the Discord, sort of giving some comps NCAA wise about Celebrini, but 3K is clearly too cheap. What's maybe even more questionable is the 4,800 price tag on Toffoli. However, because Toffoli is going to a situation where he's almost certainly getting, 18, 19 minutes plus power play one, alongside not just Celebrini, but William Eklund, who is like one of the premier like pass first prospects in the league right now. So I think Toffoli, if anything, is like the biggest screaming value here, which maybe that's a hot take. But like 3K for Celebrini obviously is, something you would tack on to Toffoli and feel really, really good about if you do so. I don't think St. Louis is much defensively. Seattle did Seattle things, I think,
Yeah.
more so than
They had a lot of
anything.
shots. Yeah.
Yeah, and more so than anything St. Louis did defensively as well. Um, so yeah, there's not a ton of help like defensively and whatnot, but Wallman 4,500, you could even stack that with Toffoli and
Yep.
Celebrini, and you're still doing okay. So I'm not going crazy on like Will Smith at this point.
No.
I think there's something I need to do to make his stuff show up because there are several Will Smiths. But in any case, the like they're really talented rookies for the most part and young players across the board here. We know Granlund and Zetterlund are okay, NHLers, but Celebrini, Toffoli are the only two Sharks that I'm really truly excited by.
Yeah, they have a semblance of a real hockey team. It's just going to take a little time
Yeah,
for it to get where it needs to go. When are they going to win a slate is the question, because at these prices, they're gonna. It's a question of when. Will it be opening night when everyone goes to bed? I don't know, but I definitely think that you can include them in your mix and feel good about it. But it's the three players mainly that you mentioned, Toffoli, Celebrini, and really Jake Wallman might be one of the better values at defense. Like, he's never had this role ever, but
yep,
when he's gotten more minutes because Detroit had injuries or whatnot, like, he does shoot, he does block,
yep.
he can
On
score.
a
Like, it's interesting. So
Yeah, on a per minute basis, he is slightly better than Justin Falk at a slightly lower price tag. I would guess the minutes there are somewhat comparable, and of course, this is
yeah,
entirely new
that's
context for Wallman too, so we don't really know what he's going to do. But he at least profiles as someone who could be a fantasy beast. So
and
4,500.
do the gritty.
Yeah, exactly. Do the gritty on your way to a 20K top prize. So, DJ, speaking of top prizes, what are your favorite stacks for chasing said top prizes?
I mean, I think there's 100% chance I flip over the cards tomorrow and have that Horvat, Barzal, Dobson. Will I click on Duclair as well? I think it's a great play, and I might end up doing it. Just kind of depends on how I configure my roster. So we normally keep it to three, so I'll say, Dobson, Barzal, and Horvat.
Okay. I really like Payne. I'm gonna go with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and Matthew Nyes. Just play all
Ooh,
three of them on a back to back. The field is going to be hooting and hollering at the fact that they got shut out by the freaking Canadians in their home opener, or not their home opener, in their season opener under a new coach. Blah blah blah. They're going back to play Sheldon Keefe. Like they're not going to mail it in at the very least, I think. And Austin Matthews still rocks. He and Marner both had 5 shots, which they had 47 as a team. So like not a huge accomplishment there, but like there's enough of a value in Marner specifically at just 5,800 to have me excited. And then Matthew Nyes getting 19 minutes in this spot just is better. Again, it's better than I expected. I'm really going to try and buy on him if he holds that role. Because, yeah, even though he's not power play one, he's certainly cheap enough to be a force, I think, for DFS early in the season. So just give me all three of those guys. And hope they bounce back against the Devils team that might be a bit overrated because they beat up on the Buffalo Sabres.
Don't come on. I'm right here. Uh, uh, I'll just do Rossi, Kaprizov, and Zuccarello on the other side. I don't think you're affording it yourself with that Matthews stack. It'd be pretty tough. You can afford it with the Islanders. You may need to make it. You're going to have to make a concession somewhere, but there's plenty of spots to make that concession. We mentioned a lot.
Okay.
You play pick a goalie. You know what? I'll play Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I'll play Blake Clark. I'll play whoever. Like, you can actually do it, and I think that's kind of my recipe for success tomorrow.
Okay, well then you left me the Giga stack of Josh
I
Norris,
know.
Drake Batherson, and Jake Sanderson. So
Oh,
thank you for that.
I did that on. I knew you kind of needed like you needed the savings more than me. You can play, maybe 3 Islanders, 2 or 3 of that 3, and then another 2. Um, I did look into that as well, kind of on the fly here, but your lineup sounds really good too. Going to like an Austin Matthews, going right back to that well after that, disappointing, but like they should have probably freaking scored a couple goals output. I think that's pretty sharp actually. The field will the ownership on Matthews will not maybe half, but a third of it'll actually it probably will half
He
because the slate size
was
is so much bigger.
Yeah, he was 32% here. And of course, this was McKinnon
Yeah,
was 25 and McDavid
yeah.
was also 25. So, like,
I
that
could see
could
him
be
being
part of it.
15,
But
18%, yeah, on a 9 game
yeah,
or maybe less, honestly. But yeah,
yeah,
like again, I think it's a really like that's a good way of playing it. Like I think if you always play to that kind of with that kind of mentality, if you're new to DFS, you're listening to us and you say like maybe I'll get into it. Like I think having that kind of thought process of saying like what are people just naturally going to do, and it's not play Austin Matthews on a back to back after failing. Like just they feel burned, they feel like you said, like I love pain, and like that I do think will reward you. We're playing for 20K. We're not playing to double up. You want to play double up, play cash. But like if you're playing for 20K, you got to think that way. So good note there. Goals.
okay. Yeah, I'll go first since you took the first stack. I'm gonna go Adrian Kempe. Just betting on this LA offense. 7,600 for Kempe. I don't think he gets much ownership whatsoever, and that allows me to sort of bet on LaFerriere, bet on Brant Clark. I can figure out some DFS configurations there, but Kempe is just an awesome player. So yeah, 6,700. I'm in.
Yeah, there's a few spots I really like for goals in general. And I know I said I didn't like this in DFS very much. I don't think it's wrong, but I just think I like stuff better. But I like Lucas Raymond to score. He's 4,900 on DraftKings. I don't know what his prices, goal score odds are yet. I should probably pull this up while we're going. But like this guy had 30 last year, and I don't think that's an outlier. He's a young player, ton of talent, and they clearly see him as a guy that can shoot on that power play based on the setup of what it looks like. Let's just go to that quick. So Kempe is plus 140, and what's his name is not listed. That game isn't there. Great. So I don't know. Lucas Raymond is a price that is not available to me to see.
Okay. Yes. That unknown price is definitely a good price on the betting
I
odds.
love that price.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So I have 4,300 available to me. Um, there's a few options, but they're mostly involved in the stacks we've already considered. Um,
I can go quick if you want.
yeah, if you have yours, go for it.
I'll go Timo Meyer. Going against Toronto on a back to back 5,900. I do think that he sets up. We talked about it a lot. Like I think he's a 30 goal scorer this year. I feel very confident in that. So I do think it's gonna start to click pretty quickly with him and Jack Hughes. And they put him in a really good spot to. I don't know if I want to say Zach Hyman his way to some power play goals, but sort of like just find them. I guess is the way to put it. So yeah, give me Timo time and Luke Raymond.
Okay. Let's just be a total slappy, and I'll just go Adam Fantilli. I know he's not on the top power play, blah blah blah, but he actually is the beneficiary of signing Kevin Labanc. So Kevin Labanc is the tide that lifts all boats in Columbus. So just bet on Kevin Labanc. Adam Fantilli, the superstar in the making, is going to start off his season hot with a guaranteed goal in Minnesota.
Yeah. Love it. Love everything we did here. Perfect podcast as always. Got to get to, I have a couple underdog sweats though for the drafts. Definitely if you're, again, I think especially if you're new to DFS and you like this content and you like the betting and stuff, like that's such an easier way of getting involved. Just because again, it's it's like drafting, you draft in a season long draft, but you're just drafting for the slate, and it's really easy and no one can really mess it up too bad. So I'm gonna go focus on those bags because I actually drafted some Montembeau. He was going like in 0 drafts because I'm like, what if Toronto has 45 shots and they can't score? And then they did.
Yeah, who knew? I don't think I have any on DraftKings, so that's rough, and I don't have any on
I played,
Underdog either. So,
I played one lineup,
um,
so I didn't have them.
yeah, that'll do it for us for this week. We'll be back next week with a podcast. We'll see what the slates look like as far as another write up on the newsletter is concerned, but I don't think I'll find the energy for a Friday slate write up. But thank you to everyone who followed the newsletter, who newly I guess subscribed and who reached out and retweeted and liked and whatnot over on the Twitter machine. So I am at Fake Moods on Twitter. DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94, where he's putting out slips and bets pretty much every NHL game day. And then, of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to sub to the podcast feed, the Morningscape podcast. And if you are on the audio feed, be sure to subscribe to DJ's YouTube channel, DJ Mitchell, over on YouTube. It's linked in the description. Even if you don't watch over there, it helps get us where we need to go as far as subscriber counts and making shows more regularly with more gusto. Because that would be nice. Anything else you want to say before we hit the road?
If the Sabres lose on Thursday, I will be apoplectic. Is that the word?
Yep.
That will be me.
Okay. Good to know. The Buffalo Sabres, DJ's life is in your hands. All right, that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good Thursday slate, everybody, and we will see ya.